you how absolutely apoplectic and insane the media is here, attacking her. And by the way, it's over a wardrobe choice. It's insane. And tonight we also have more fallout from the IG report that the media ignores, including new evidence that reveals some of the absolutely dirty tactics used against the Trump campaign and the biggest abuse of power, and the media is ignoring it all. And also we have the latest from the ongoing obstruction that is at the DOJ. There is a fight a-brewing, and it's a sad day here at the Fox News channel. As we just mentioned, the brilliant Charles Krauthammer, he did pass away at the age of 68. A huge loss for the Fox News family. We'll have more on his life, his legacy, and his profile and courage that was his life. Now, we're first calling out political bias, by the way, and holding our government accountable, and that is our breaking news opening monologue. All right, just hours ago, the First Lady, Melania Trump, made a surprise trip to Texas where she visited a DHS-sponsored shelter serving as a temporary home to children that are detained at the border. Take a look.
We all know they're here without their families. And I want to thank you for your hard work, your compassion, and your kindness you're giving them in these difficult times. I'm here to learn about your facility, and which I know you house children on a long-term basis. And I also like to ask you how I can help to these children to reunite with their families as quickly as possible.
Now, the First Lady's trip was important. Those remarks were important without a doubt. The First Lady, she's doing a great job. And by the way, is offering so much needed compassion. As I said from the beginning, nobody wants children and parents to be separated. Neither did Donald Trump. He solved Congress's mess. But of course, the media, well, they could only focus on one thing: what Melania was wearing while boarding, literally, the plane to Texas. And a jacket you see there with the words on the back that apparently read, I really don't care, do you? Vanity Fair headline: did Melania Trump just undercut her border visit with a very poorly chosen jacket? Her visit to a migrants' children's shelter suggested she cared. Well, her jacket seemed to say otherwise. Then you got CNN editor-at-large: Melania Trump's I really don't care, do you jacket was no mistake. Vogue writing: Melania Trump one-ups her hurricane stilettos with a I really don't care jacket worn visiting children at the border. And just take a look at how fake news CNN, which barely bothered to cover the president's rally last night, and conspiracy TV MSNBC did not cover it all. Look at how they cover the jacket.
It was impossible to think that that is aimed at the people she just saw. It's more, I think, likely, just because this is what we do with the First Lady when she wears these things, maybe the person who she's married to.
I believe she has worn dozens of different coats, and many of them are beautiful.
This one is not.
This one is not. You have a great story today of the First Lady going down, showing compassion for these children, and yet you have this jacket.
This is a picture of Melania Trump boarding Air Force One to head down to McAllen, Texas to visit some of the children being held in detention centers. She's wearing a green jacket, we believe, that came from the clothing store Zara, and on the back it's written in white, I really don't care, do you? She's a model. I mean, she sort of knows the power of clothes.
She does. Now, the Director of Communications for the First Lady, Stephanie Graham, responded earlier today and tweeted out, quote, today's visit with children in Texas impacted the FLOTUS greatly. If the media would spend their time and energy on our actions and efforts to help kids rather than speculate and focus on our wardrobe, well, we could get so much accomplished on behalf of kids. And followed by the hashtag She Cares, and it's just a jacket. Even President Trump, he did weigh in. This tells a lot. I really don't care, do you? Written on the back of Melania's jacket refers to the fake news media. Melania has learned how dishonest they are, and she truly no longer cares. By the way, good for her. Why should she trust them? And it's pretty unbelievable. Now, the surprise trip took place less than 24 hours after the president, Donald Trump, signed an executive order effectively preventing the separation of families and children who cross our borders illegally. In doing so, so, what did he do? He bailed out the Democrats and Republicans in Congress who, by the way, this is their mess. This is their law, not his, and the people that have failed to act on the issue. No one wants children separated from parents. The president's been saying it day one. This action now literally transcends these stupid laws that are on the books, passed by Congress, signed into law by a previous president. This is not a permanent solution. In fact, it's not going to hold up in a court system. The real answer, the real long-term answer, the real solution, if you care, the correct answer, the constitutional answer, is Congress to do their job. Pass a bill, send it to the White House. And despite all of this, President Trump was literally demonized for days in the media for Congress's law before the executive action. Nazi comparisons, slavery comparisons, basically the mainstream media, what they do worst, be themselves.
Donald Trump, without a doubt, is pure evil. When you played the tapes of what was heard a couple of days ago in the centers, it's horrific. How can people do that? That hasn't happened in this country since the time of slavery. It hasn't happened in the world since the time of the Nazis. And Donald Trump is right there with them.
This is as if George Wallace had won in 1968. The one through line here from Charlottesville to this issue is, to use your phrase, a return to the most disturbing elements of white supremacy, white male supremacy to be precise, in the national character.
Overnight, they've now created criminals. So people are trying to understand what's happening here. That's what happened. And you know what? Elie Wiesel, may he rest in peace, what he said to me was, he said, you know, the Nazis had it perfectly correct. They declared us an illegal people. That's how it began.
I don't want little children ripped from their parents' arms. I don't want them marched off to, quote, showers.
When you look at this historically, throughout American history, no matter the policy you're talking about, the separation of families has always been something that speaks to a level of inhumanity. You go back to slavery.
No wonder when the president gives a rally like he did last night, they start chanting about your corrupt news media. Oh, CNN sucks. And so does MSNBC. Now, even Trump's DHS Secretary Kristen Nielsen was not spared from the hostility and viciousness and the wrath of the left. Take a look at this clip. She gets run out of a Washington restaurant by a group of liberal protesters. And by the way, I'm still waiting to hear from Hillary, Nancy, and Elizabeth. Where are you? Take a look.
Secretary Nielsen, how dare you spend your evening here eating dinner as you're complicit in the separation and deportation of over 10,000 children separated from their parents? How can you enjoy a Mexican dinner as you're deporting and imprisoning tens of thousands of people who come here seeking asylum in the United States? We call on you to end family separation and abolish ICE.
Homeland Security Secretary Kirsten Nielsen is in a Mexican restaurant of all places. The goal. Shame on you! Shame! 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 Fascist pig!
By the way, apparently that included one DOJ employee, that group of insanity there. Now, liberals save their worst for the president's, pay attention to this, his 12-year-old son. Really? Now, we have to warn you. The tweet you're about to see is beyond disturbing. Here you have Jane Fonda's brother, Peter, the actor. We should rip Barron Trump from his mother's arms and put him in a cage with pedophiles and see if his mother will stand against the giant blank that she's married to. 90 million people in the streets on the same weekend in the country. F. Peter Fonda, okay, tried to issue a tepid apology. Melania Trump, she had to contact the Secret Service because her 12-year-old son's being threatened. Beyond vile, beyond disgusting. You can't even imagine it. And by the way, Fonda wasn't the only repugnant person on the left to go after a Trump child. Look at this Canadian TV writer attacking Don Jr.'s 4-year-old on Twitter, saying, quote, "We're coming for you." Really? This is beyond sick. This is pathological and frankly dangerous. This is now the type of rhetoric that one has to wonder if something happens, who's going to be to blame here? And meanwhile, we have another horrible example of the left's new low, according to an email obtained by Breitbart.com. Writer for GQ asking Donald Trump Jr. if he wanted to have I'm not making this up, sex with his mother. That's how twisted their brains are. Remember, these are all the same people that demanded compassion from President Trump. Really? Where's your example? Where's the compassion for children, a 4-year-old, a 12-year-old? And by the way, was it going to happen? What's ever going to happen to Peter Fonda or the person that threatened Kirsten Nielsen or Don Jr.'s son? And by the way, what would the media be doing if this was the children of Barack Obama? You don't think there's a double standard? Now, despite all this vile, all this hatred, all this insanity, the president is still ready, willing, and able, and eager, actually, to address what is Congress's broken immigration system. It's not his system. It's not his laws. He wants to work with Republicans and Democrats alike. He wants to solve the problem. He's willing to give on DACA. He's willing to give on separation of kids. He's already tried to clean up their mess, by the way, caused by Obama and Clinton because they never did their jobs. And just months away from the midterms, what is this? Democrats would rather use the issue to divide you, the American people, raise money and win votes. By the way, it's a typical election year for them.
My administration is also acting swiftly to address the illegal immigration crisis on the southern border. Loopholes in our immigration laws, all supported by extremist open border Democrats. And that's what they are. They're extremist open border Democrats. If you look at Nancy Pelosi, you look at Chuck Schumer, you'll see tapes where they wanted to have borders. They needed borders for security. Just a short while ago, a number of years ago, I see Chuck Schumer, we must have borders. Hillary Clinton, we must have borders. If people penetrate our borders, we must get them out of our country. Now, all of a sudden, they're big open border people. It's a whole big con job. In the meantime, people are suffering because of the Democrats. So we've created, and they've let it happen, a massive child smuggling industry. It's exactly what it's become.
So predictable. You see it every 2 years, every 4 years. Republicans are racist. They're sexist. They're misogynistic. They're xenophobic. They're homophobic. They're Islamophobic. They want to kill your children, throw granny over the cliff, and they want dirty air and dirty water and to poison the air and water. You hear it every 2 and 4 years. And by the way, the president's right, but you don't have to take his word for it. Despite him fixing their problem, signing the executive order to keep illegal immigrant families together, despite working with the DHS to make sure children are reunited with their parents, despite all of that outrage over the Trump administration enforcing Congress's law that has been on the books for years and that Obama never fixed. And by the way, Obama did the same thing. We've showed you the pictures. We'll go back to that in a minute. Democrats, even though he does what they want, they're still playing politics. They're still demonizing, and they're still insane in their comments. They are anti-Trump everything. Take a look.
What he's doing with zero tolerance, and that applies to those seeking amnesty, so undermines who we are as a country.
Their alteration of the policy today didn't end their heartlessness.
So the administration was perfectly comfortable with separating parents from their kids as long as it put pressure on the Congress to build the president's wall.
Of course, it was a crisis that he created and attempted to address today, but he didn't go anywhere near far enough.
This will be a dark moment in America's history. To put these children in steel cages like internment camps is something people will never forget, and it was Donald J. Trump.
The president was right to stop that policy, but let's not give him a medal for starting the fire and then bringing the fire hose. This could lead to family internment camps.
These people are insane. By the way, Barack Hussein Obama, that's what he did, and we have the evidence. Remember, it's Senate Democrats. They're the ones that actually stand in the way of a real immigration system getting fixed. And by the way, standing in the way of a fully funded, fully constructed border wall, standing in the way of merit-based immigration system, standing in the way of fixing what is happening at the southern border. You care about the opioid crisis? You care about people that don't love America coming into our country? Instead of fixing America's problems, instead of really helping people and solving problems and helping immigrants, Democrats would rather demagogue, win a midterm election, impose their horrible agenda on the American people, which includes, by the way, 4 points. One, they're not going to tell you. They told people like Maxine Waters, don't say it. Don't say it, but we're going to do it. Impeach President Trump. Number two, they want to keep Obamacare. You like your doctor? You like your care? You like your hospitals? Oh, that's right. Forget that. And you pay less? Number three, they want, Nancy Pelosi said she wants her crumbs back. Remember, she said the tax cuts were crumbs. She wants it back. And number four, they're open borders, as you can see. Now, the Democrats, by the way, they're not acting alone. Their greatest ally is the mainstream media. They're basically the press office for the Democratic Party, and they're backing them up every step of the way. Just look at how abusively, insanely biased your press is as they cover President Trump after he did what Obama never did. He solved the problem, signed an executive order that probably isn't going to hold muster in any courtroom. Take a look.
Just because the arsonist comes back and throws a bucket of water in the fire doesn't mean that they didn't start the fire in the first place.
It will leave an indelible stain upon the presidency.
Either that they are morally callous about this or that they are incompetent about this.
This is something that Erdogan would do. This is something that Putin would do.
Thanks to this new order, instead of being separated, families from other countries will be locked up together, hopefully starting with his.
Immigrants, people coming to this country, are vermin. That's what he was saying. It's the language of white nationalist, European splinter, hard right, crazy town parties.
The combination of both white nationalist racism making the policy and complete and total incompetence.
They were all silent when Obama did the same thing. Wow, it's enough to make you want to, well, you know why it's not frustrating? Maybe that's why we have about 4 viewers to their 1. Because people know they're a bunch of liars. Now, unfortunately, the American media, well, for American voters, they're now kind of fully hip and to their bias, their BS, and their hatred of the president. And while almost every other network, they nearly ignored Trump's rally last night because they'd be called out by the president for being the liars they are. But the good people of Minnesota had a message, as I mentioned earlier, especially for fake news CNN. Maybe they weren't listening because nobody's watching. Take a look.
So we've created 3.4 million new jobs since Election Day. 3.4. And I've said before, if I would have said that to you during the campaign, those very dishonest people back there, the fake news, very dishonest. They would have said he's exaggerating.
So why are Americans choosing not to watch fake news CNN or conspiracy TV MSNBC and, frankly, not paying attention to print media anymore? It's because of their rampant, psychotic, anti-Trump bias. And also because the media's pervasive double standard is clear. People see it. President Trump highlighted a lot of this last night during his very strong remarks about President Obama. We showed you the pictures last night. Take a look.
There is no amount of money or personnel in the world to address the crisis. Very serious crisis. Been going on so long. This isn't Trump administration. You look back at 2014 during the Obama administration, they have pictures that were so bad. They had a judge that said it was inhumane the way they were treating children. Take a look at some of the court rulings against the Obama administration. They talked about inhumane treatment. I read them. I looked at them. They're all over the place. Inhumane treatment. They were treating them terribly.
President's right. So where was all the outrage from the media? Oh, look at that. Those images, they're children in cages, no parents in sight, sleeping on the floor, wrapped in foil blankets. Oh, those are under Obama's reign. Oh, my gosh. So where was Tim Kaine, Nancy Pelosi, the liberal media? Where was their outrage then? Where was the outrage when Obama enacted a policy where immigrant children were held for months without their moms and dads as punishment for their border crossing? Where was the outrage when the family of immigrant detainees sued President Obama for wrongful death? Where was the outrage following a report that minor illegal immigrant detainees were brutally abused, beaten under the Obama administration? Remember, it was Obama who prosecuted nearly 500 500,000 illegal immigrants. It was Obama who said he must follow the laws on the books and that he had no other choice but to deport illegal immigrants. And as a matter of fact, he was just doing what other presidents did, even if the consequences are severe, Obama said. He said it over and over again. He doesn't make the laws. It's just his job as president to enforce them. Well, let's go to the videotape, a Hannity history lesson.
There are those in the immigrants' rights community who have argued passionately that we should simply provide those who are illegally with legal status, or at least ignore the laws on the books. But I believe such an indiscriminate approach would be both unwise and unfair. When I talk to immigration advocates, they wish I could just bypass Congress and change the law myself. But that's not how democracy works. Believe me, the idea of doing things on my own is very tempting. I promise you, not just on immigration reform. But that's not how our system works.
I'm the President of the United States. I'm not the Emperor of the United States. My job is to execute laws that are passed.
And take a look at this stunning admission from Obama's Homeland Security Secretary. Pretty interesting.
In 2014, to deal with the spike then with the families, we did a number of things, including, by the way, working with the government of Mexico and obtaining their cooperation on securing their southern border. But we also expanded family detention, which was, I freely admit, controversial.
And you got a lot of heat for it.
We got a lot of heat for it.
The hypocrisy, the double standard is just unbelievable. And as I said earlier, this is all politics. It's now the political season. We get it every 2 and 4 years. We'll have more on that in a few moments. First, we do have some breaking developments surrounding the deep state. Well, anti-Trump FBI lovebird Peter Strzok, who was the lead prosecutor in both the Hillary Clinton server investigation and the Trump-Russia witch hunt, has now reportedly, finally, lost his security clearance. Now, of course, Strzok is just one of 5 high-ranking anti-Trump FBI employees who were referred for investigation by the Inspector General. Now we know that 3 of the 5 abusively biased individuals towards Trump, those that loved Hillary, worked on both investigations. And by the way, they include Strzok, they include Page, and an FBI lawyer, which was outed by Chairman Meadows, named Kevin Kleinsmith. And by the way, Kleinsmith was initially working as the primary attorney in the Russia investigation. But of course, he was removed in February because his bias was revealed. What about the rest of the Mueller team? Tonight, the Freedom Caucus chairman, Mark Meadows, is sounding an alarm that possible witness statements may have been altered, what's known as 302s, by some of these biased investigators in order to clear or charge a suspect. That's a big problem. Now, Meadows is also warning the subpoenas are, quote, forthcoming in days. Sarah Carter, who will join us, now reporting this revelation could very likely apply to the prosecution of Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. We'll talk to her shortly. Of course, we could get to the bottom of all the corruption going on in Obama's Justice Department and the FBI if the DOJ would stop obstructing. Byron York now asking the important question, why did it take so long for Strzok's infamous anti-Trump text to be released? Tonight, we're asking the same question. So, Mr. Rosenstein, what's going on? And let me be clear, the threat of impeachment for Rosenstein is very real. And look at this headline. Obama cyber chief confirms stand-down order against Russian cyber attacks. And as I said before, we're only scratching the surface. This deep state is more corrupt, and this is more abuse of power than we have ever known. It's really, really dangerous. When we come back, the media insanity. Joe Concha, Judge Pirro, with my opening monologue, the great one, Mark Levin, coming up. I've got a lot more to say, too. Stay with us. All right, can we show Robert and Marcus, please? Because they're literally giving me my cues tonight, and they're with the group Homes for Heroes, and they're here with their family tonight as our guest, and they're remarkable. There, you see that? All right, smile, the big TV debut, ready, go. Well, all right, big hand for them. Thank you, guys. You're doing an amazing job. Here with reaction to our monologue and more from the Hill, Joe Concha, author of Liars, Leakers, and Liberals, the case against the anti-Trump conspiracy. You know her as the host, the one of Justice, Judge Jeanine Pirro. I really, if you let me, I'm going to go on another hour because I'm so angry at how absolutely vicious these people are.
You know, I have to tell you, Sean, I really am frightened. I think that that what has happened in the last
Rush
month,
said somebody's going to get killed.
There's no question about it. Look, the president did what he thought was right. This is a man who loves his family, all right? He didn't want families separated. As soon as he did it, now it's an internment camp. Wait a minute. The only people responsible for the separation of parents and children that the president has resolved now are the people who bring their children over or send their children over unaccompanied. But the left is not willing to give him any credit for anything, and what that means is they will continue to pound against him until someone gets hurt.
You know, it's amazing, Joe, that it took Donald Trump to fix Congress's bad law. I'm going to scroll pictures as you're talking here. And these are all images when Barack Obama was president. Kids in cages, kids separated, 500,000 illegals prosecuted. We'll roll the pictures. But you know what? I've never seen. Now they're also, nobody in the media talks about going after a 12-year-old kid. They don't talk about going after a 4-year-old girl. And the things they say about the First Lady and Ivanka, it's frankly, it's beyond disgusting.
Yeah, I'll tackle at least what was said about the First Lady today in regards to her jacket. But you got to go back in time, right? Not too long ago, 2017, Hurricane Harvey. She wears stilettos going to the plane that's going to take her to Texas, where she changes into sneakers. And she is mocked for that, for being elitist and out of touch. There's a First Lady who had kidney surgery, takes a couple of weeks to recover. She's seen in the West Wing by 2 reporters, and yet conspiracy theories are thrown out about her whereabouts. David Frum, a conservative, actually even recklessly speculates that she's the victim of spousal abuse. This is the First Lady that speaks 5 languages.
CNN fake
And a
news.
fraction of people on the planet can do that, and she is mocked by an ABC host. Here's the good news, though, if you're a Trump supporter. This will backfire, because Melania Trump's poll numbers are higher than almost every politician in Washington and infinitely higher than the media that covers her. It's never a good idea to attack a First Lady, especially this one, as we've seen.
Let me go to Judge Pierre. All right, so where is Nancy? Where is, so I'm serious, Nancy Pelosi? Where's Hillary? Where's Elizabeth Warren? I thought we were living in a Me Too era. Do we need like a separate Me Too if you're a conservative woman?
If you're a conservative woman, you are not entitled to the benefit of the doubt. You're not entitled to equal rights. You're not entitled to respect. If you're a conservative woman, you don't have free speech. You can't speak on a campus. And we're going to criticize everything you say and do.
What do they say about Ivanka?
Horrible what they say about her. This is a woman who has spent her professional life trying to empower other women, and it's women who are trying to take her down. Here's the good news, Sean. The good news is that the American public is smarter than these people, and they are infuriated with the fact that this president is doing everything he can. He gets up every day to try to make our lives better, and they want to destroy. And the text about put your son in a cage with a pedophile, that is the most outrageous thing I have heard in years.
You're the lawyer. Isn't that a terroristic threat?
It
Isn't that
absolutely
a threat
is.
against the first family?
It is a threat against the first family, and if it happened to a different first family, Barack Obama, the Secret Service would be there in a minute and people would be charged.
The media's ignoring it all.
Of course.
Just like they're
You know
ignoring
what?
the IG report, they're ignoring the economic success.
Oh, and by the way, what haven't you heard of? Russia?
No, yeah,
That's
well,
what this is about.
Let me, last word, Joe.
Oh, I just want to say a few words about Charles Krauthammer. Sean, I know you're going to tackle it later in the show. He was the best political commentator in political TV history, in my opinion, a Pulitzer-winning columnist, and I'll leave you with this quote, and I think it's so Charles Krauthammer. He said this: whenever you're faced with an explanation of what's going on in Washington, the choice between incompetence and conspiracy, always choose incompetence. A biting, self-deprecating wit, and he will be missed, certainly.
An intellectual powerhouse. You know, it's interesting. I'm going to show a clip. I chose it myself, and I thought about it deeply, and it's Charles mocked me mercilessly. Because I didn't know he had been in a wheelchair. His whole life was a profile in courage. I'm going to show the clip because it just became a bond between us tonight throughout the years. Good to see you both.
Good to see you.
All right. And when we come back, the great one, buckle up, Mark Levin, next, straight ahead.
In an era.
All right, so much news going on today. Here to join us, he is the host of CR TV's Levin TV, #1 show on Sunday night, 10 Eastern, right here on the Fox News Channel and cable. It's Life, Liberty, and Levin. Thank me. God bless us. I call him the great one. You know, Mark, we talk privately a lot. We're friends. And you know what? Sometimes we get pretty heated. I am literally boiling over the immigration lie, the outright hypocrisy, the treatment of a 12-year-old kid and a 4-year-old little girl, and our First Lady. And the double standard is so despicable. And there's law involved here. And Obama was the one that said he's not an emperor, he's the president, and he's compelled to enforce Congress's bad laws.
I never thought I'd say this, Sean, but where's Stormy Daniels and her slip and fall lawyer when we need them? You know, the Democrats like to talk about Japanese internment camps, I notice. They know a lot about Japanese internment camps, the Democrats, since they set them up. Franklin Roosevelt set them up. The Democrat Congress funded them. The FDR Supreme Court in the Kawamatsu decision upheld them. And then they took 120,000 Japanese Americans and Americans of Japanese descent and forcibly removed them from their homes and put them in these Japanese internment camps. So the Democrats know a lot about them. They also know a lot about our current detention policies and facilities since they've been funding them for the last 30 years. They've existed 8 years under Bill Clinton, 8 years under George W. Bush, 8 years under Barack Obama. Then the Clinton administration entered into a consent decree with a liberal judge overseeing it all that required the release of minors coming across the border illegally, dragged here in many cases by adults, in 1997, requires the release of them in 20 days. So this administration says we got to enforce our laws. We have too many illegal aliens coming in, so they separate the adults from the kids. Just like we do when we send American adults to prison, we don't send the little toddlers with them. So Donald Trump is now Hitler. So Donald Trump says, well, let's unite the families. Well, he's uniting the families, and he's still Hitler. Now they're saying, well, the only answer is blah, 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 blah. And they're doing that, Sean, for one simple reason. They believe in open borders. They want all those people released. They do not want to deport them. They do not want to send them home. These are not human rights advocates on the left. They are leftists who seek power at all costs. Now, if these Democrats really cared about little kids and little babies and so forth, why are they so hardcore on partial birth abortion? Have they ever seen those pictures of partial birth abortion? Why do they want to fund the Planned Parenthood outfit? More and more and more money into that organization. Remember those undercover videos where they're selling babies' organs and body parts? I believe those are babies, and I believe that reminds me, I might say, of the Third Reich. But they support those organizations, and they call partial birth abortion right up to 1 second before the birth. They call that a choice and a right. They're not fooling anybody. And by the way, where have the media been the last 30 years? Where's Jake Tapper been, other than at Handgun Inc., Handgun Control Inc., and a press secretary to a left-wing member of Congress? All this stuff going on before Trump ever thought about running for president, all these Nazi concentration camps and Democrat Japanese internment camps. Somehow CNN missed them and MSNBC missed them and the New York Times and the Washington Post missed them. Let me tell you something. The American people aren't fooled by this crap. This is the latest baloney that they're throwing at this president. And this president is trying to get this managed. I have a simple solution. Secure the border, but the Democrats won't secure the border. That way, we get fewer little kids coming across, and they can stay home in their nirvana, in their country that they're from, which we know is a magnificent culture because Dick Durbin told us they're coming from magnificent cultures. So let's secure the border. Then we don't have to have Democrat-style Japanese internment camps. The families can stay together, and the families can live together.
You know, it really can be simple. And you know what, Mark? If they really cared about the separation issue, if they really cared about the DACA kids, well, convince me that I'm wrong. They could actually fix it in a day. You know, God forbid they do their job. Great one. Thank you. Don't forget, don't miss it. Mark Show. And by the way, I'm going to be a guest very soon on it. We'll give you the date. Life, Liberty, Levin, #1 show on cable, 10 p.m. Sunday nights right here on Fox. Coming up, Sarah Carter and Dr. Sebastian Gorka later. Also, the sad day here at the Fox News Channel and our Fox family. Charles Krauthammer died at the age of 68. Stay with us.
This program is What we're continuing to find, Buck, is additional information from DOJ and FBI that has literally been hidden from Congress's oversight role for 9 months, and so we're at the point where the frustration has reached a level that we've got to deal with it. So, issuing subpoenas to compel people to come in and testify. Some of them who really, I think, want to testify, want to make sure that we clean this up, will be actually forthcoming in days where we'll get them to come in.
House Freedom Caucus Chairman Mark Meadows promising subpoenas. Yeah, they're going to be forthcoming. Why? To compel individuals to testify over their involvement in the probe into the Russian election interference. Here with the reaction, author of Why We Fight, Recovering America's Will to Win, Dr. Sebastian Gorka, Fox News contributor Sarah Carter. Sarah, this is your story about the fight and what is now appears now to be contempt of Congress, followed by an impeachment, at least being filed against Rod Rosenstein. Are they going to do it? Because threats aren't going to work anymore.
Threats aren't going to work anymore, and they need to take this seriously. They've said over and over again, Sean, both Meadows, Jordan, and others, that they're going to take this to the floor and they're going to file those impeachment papers. But remember, Rod Rosenstein is willing to go forward with this fight, and he is going to try to fight them all the way to the end. So they've got to be very serious about this.
He wants them to sue. Congress should not sue because it's sort of like, Fast and Furious is going to get lost in the court system, and Rosenstein knows it. So they should do what they do to you and Dr. Gorka and me, and that's hold him in contempt, maybe put him in, a jail cell for 10 days to make him, let's see, they're going to put the screws to him like they do Manafort, who is now in solitary, like he's a mob killer, and then maybe he'll sing so they can then, quote, either impeach or prosecute Trump. Maybe we should use the same tactics against Rosenstein that Mueller's using against the other people.
That he would use against any American that was withholding information from the FBI. But I don't know if that's going to happen. They need to have enough members of Congress really backing this and really pushing this forward. And this is why those subpoenas are so important, why it's so important to get those FBI, those people in the Bureau, those people in the DOJ who want to talk, to come out and tell the American public the truth about what went on.
My sources tell me that there were at least 4 criminal referrals here, probably more, and that the person in the most trouble tonight who doesn't know it is actually James Comey. Dr. Gorka.
Well, it's very, very interesting. Remember, Rod Rosenstein is very, very close friends with Comey, with Mueller, with all these individuals. And this is a man who called congressional oversight over the Department of Justice extortion. This individual is a swamp dweller. This individual is all about the survival of himself and the Obama cronies that were stuffed into the DOJ. This individual is now a rogue agent inside the DOJ, and Congress should start to exercise its fully mandated oversight powers.
The fact that Rod Rosenstein, Sarah, thinks that he and one of his little apparently well-known temper tantrums, apparently he's got a vicious, vile temper, people that have seen it have told me, threatens Congress with, we're going to use the power of the DOJ and we're going to subpoena your emails, we're going to go after you. If that's not abuse of power, I don't know what is. Why is he still there?
Well, you're right. And he doesn't just threaten members of Congress. These are people who can handle it and can punch back and fight back. He threatens the investigators, the people that are behind the scenes, the people that are actually doing these investigations, the ones that he does not want to have access to these documents. He's done it to a number of them. Some of them have been publicly named in stories.
Well, they're going to now subpoena your emails? Are they going to bang on my door? Is Rod Rosenstein doesn't like what we say? He doesn't like the Congress is doing their constitutional duty, so now he's going to threaten them? Well, what's next? Are we going to be a country anymore? Or are we going to be a constitutional republic anymore? Dr. Gorka.
Rod Rosenstein has facilitated the subversion and the sabotaging of rule of law in the United States.
He's a bully.
If he doesn't stop.
He's
a
trying
as well,
to bully
worse,
Congress from doing their job.
But worse than that, worse than being a bully, there are lots of bullies out there. We now know, thanks to the IG report, thanks to the work of Sarah, of you, that the Department of Justice is a political entity, that Obama turned it into a political police force and the FBI followed suit.
It's like a
that
secret police.
has to be
You're
fixed.
Right. Let me ask this, Sarah.
Rosenstein is part of the problem.
Is Congress going to vote up or down to end the witch hunt? Because that's now making its way through Congress, because I think they need to do it like yesterday.
I agree with you, Sean. And I think now that we know that at least three of the people that were on Mueller's special counsel were removed for extraordinary bias. Kleinsmith, who was named by Meadows, apparently was just removed in February. We know Peter Strzok was extraordinarily biased, and right now Horowitz is actually investigating his role in the Russia investigation.
In other words, it was illegitimate from day one.
Yeah, fruit from the poisonous tree, Sean. I mean, this is what attorneys look at all times. So there needs to be something done.
Thank you both. Very sad day here at the Fox News Channel. Up next, we're going to remember the life, the profile, and courage, legacy of our friend and colleague, the brilliant Charles Krauthammer.